Hi, my name's Jeffrey Hart, and today we're going to take a look at the Juvenile Detention Center of USD 500, and particularly their student intake and transition process that is being proposed. So, our objectives for today, especially as it relates to this proposal, is to facilitate a comprehensive and individualized educational experience for students in the local juvenile detention center that supports their academic growth, addresses their unique needs, and prepares them for a successful transition back into regular school upon release. Previously, when I first began my career as a teacher in a juvenile detention center, when students arrived, there was no way for them to attain full credit for their particular courses. There was no specific grade level alignment, or at least the resources provided. And there was little that we could do to have the specific curriculum and the grades ready to be relevant for the students upon their return to school. So, as much as the students made a lot of growth, that growth could not be translated in a way that they could attain credits or grades elsewhere outside of our facility. So, that was very disheartening for students. A lot of students knew that, and they always felt like it wasn't relevant, and it made it very difficult. But with the development of better technology and software and easier access to computers and iPads, things are changing. And they're affecting even life inside of a juvenile detention center, especially with certain products having good security measures to ensure that students can access educational resources online without them having free reign and access to the internet, which they would be restricted from in our particular setting. And so, what we ended up needing to do with this technology is spend some time getting accustomed to it, which we did, and finally develop a plan. For a while, I don't think we realized that we finally had a lot more power with this technology than we did prior to it, as it related to helping students ease their stress coming into our facility and leaving our facility. It just dealt with our coordination and our planning. And so, this proposed 12 step plan for personalizing students' intake and transition process is meant to help make their experience just a little bit better, but also academically help set them up for success at you know as best as possible. So when it comes to our first step, like any classrooms, pretty basic. Teacher introductions. You'll see our success criteria and objectives on the left, and in the box, a more concise and truncated way of looking at it. Greeting and welcoming students individually. Introduce yourself and other teachers and staff members. Establish a warm and inclusive environment. We do this both in person, individually with students, as best as we can, depending on the chaos or sanity of the day, as teachers may joke about sometimes. But when it comes to students gaining access to us, we always make sure to have that available through our LMS system, uh, where we have some pre-recorded videos. That way, at least if his teacher's sick that day or something, and the student comes in or something's up, the student can at least get a little introduction of who's who as they get in there and be a little more familiar with everybody. We also have a great supporting staff member, and she is a tutor. She works with students individually, and her particular role at our facility, at least when it comes to fulfilling this step for educational intake interview, is she works with the students and interviews them one on one. We prepare a questionnaire together. As a school to make sure that that interview has all the questions that are needed. It's a one-on-one interview. That way, it's more personalized between her and the student. She types in the information into the LMS system, and everything gets organized properly on an Excel sheet. And then she documents all the information that students give us, what schools they've been to, grade levels, their strengths or weaknesses, their special needs. And it just helps us understand them better and kind of plan ahead and find their information so that we can collect it. Review classroom rules and procedures. It's pretty standard here. When you look at our success criteria and objectives, we develop a clear set of classroom rules and procedures, present and discuss the rules with the students, and then provide written copies of those rules for reference and digital copies as well. That way, we can say that we went over it with the students have access to it. Even though teachers, in our facility have some particular rules that are specific to their classrooms. We try to keep our rules very concise and uniform for our at risk students so that they have a better, clear understanding in our particular environment of what's acceptable and not acceptable. That way, there's no confusion with the detention center staff as well as we coordinate with them. Step four. Review known educational history. This step two's interview really helps with this. Our secretary will collect all the educational history, sometimes based off of that interview. Sometimes our students jump from school to school, district to district, and their records are all over the place. Our interview in step two helps our secretary with this step gather that information so that we can have it all in one place. That allows us to properly assign a student into their online course that they need to be in properly. So if they're supposed to be in Algebra 1 for a semester, we'll put them in that specific class. But if they've taken it, we'll put them in the second semester to make sure that everything's aligned for them. And this is a job that is very, very important. And for our school, our secretary has done a great job with that. Individualized education plans or IEPs. There are other documents. I know I put IEP for a title, but there are court related documents and other academic documents that may be needed for review. But really, our objective is to obtain copies of student IEPs and other documents, review the accommodations, modifications, and goals specific to that student, and just ensure that that IEP is implemented as effectively as possible in our environment. We want to make sure to help that student succeed and know that they're in a safe environment. Assess educational goals and needs. This happens kind of more in the background. Where administer academic assessments to identify strengths and weaknesses, analyze assessment results to determine individualized educational needs, set up specific and measurable goals based on assessment outcomes. Our tutor as well helps perform this step along with our math teacher when she's available. When students come in along with the interview, students might be snuck out of the class for a little bit and they will take a specific math reading and even science assessment just to kind of gauge where they're at, especially when students have had gaps in their educational careers. Lets us just know where they're at, where we need to put them for their success, and especially if they leave us, the schools afterwards will also know. Curriculum planning and scheduling. This all goes with, identifying the student's courses. So if a student has, English 9 second semester, but, maybe a 10th grade level science course, we'll make sure that that curriculum plan is set up for that student. So usually when a student's with us, we'll have them set up in about maybe 2, 3 tops on online courses, and then we work with them in the morning, when it comes to their basic curriculum needs. They may learn, in English class, they may all read a book together, and they'll go through the basic requirements so that a lot of students will for, English requirements that match all the grade levels as best as possible, but in the afternoon, they'll go back to their specific curriculum. See collaboration with detention center staff. This step's just a basic reminder. This kind of happens really with all steps, but it's good just to have it as its own step as a reminder. This happens more on the administrative level with the principal, but there are times when we have full group meetings with the officers and teachers where schedule regular meetings with detention center staff. We kind of know what's going on their side. They know what's going on our side. That way, if a class is having a particular lesson or a particular activity, the staff on the detention center side is made aware and able to accommodate for that as best as possible. Establish communication with families. I put this picture in here because I want to make sure to remind everybody that though our students may have a specific appearance or people may have a specific idea of our students, that there are still families behind these students that love them very much. And when they are in tough situations like this, sometimes we are the only people giving them positive news about their student, their child. And so, you know, collecting information for families and guardians, making those communications, those phone calls, informing them about what's going on in their students' educational lives at the detention center and how well they're doing, keeps them informed, gives them something to be proud about. Sometimes we're able to get their support and be like, hey, call your child up, let them know they're doing a good job, keeping them pumped up. These relationships can still survive even in this setting. And I think people forget about that and don't even think about it sometimes. But it's very important to initiate that communication. Monitor progress and adjust instruction. A basic thing that any teacher does. This also goes into our general program. So, as we're helping figure out where our students are and their academic needs, we may need to make adjustments to our program. Sometimes we think they're in one class, but then later we find out no, they shouldn't be in that class, and we have to take them back a little bit. We may find out that they have IEP needs that they may have not originally been made aware of, or no one knew because the student may not have been in school long enough. And so monitoring and making these adjustments, doing what is necessary on that case by case basis is just routine. Pretty much what we do in every step of our academic careers as teachers. So we try to implement a system for tracking and documenting our academic progress, provide ongoing feedback and assessment results to the students, and then modify instruction and interventions based on individual needs and progress. 11, transition planning. This kind of is happening throughout the whole time, but throughout this process, we want to make sure that we're meeting with any case managers. This a lot of times will be on the administrator side, but sometimes teachers do get involved with these conversations. Provide educational records and recommendations for the students next school. So sometimes we can put it into our online profiles for students, or we might even have to have a document that the principal emails out to the next school so that that student's principal puts it in their records properly. And then prepare transition resources and materials for integration. So, same thing, said different way. Lastly, support services for referral after they've left, making sure that once they've left that they have the tools that they need once they're gone. So we've gotten them out, but do they need to speak to a school counselor either for academic or personal reasons? Do they need to speak to a psychologist? Sometimes these needs are run by the school side, sometimes these are set up by the court services side. They don't talk as well as I would like them to, but both sides are working very hard to help students out. They have some pretty good programs to help these students out, just as much as the schools try to as well. But we work to just to make those referrals that we can to prevent recidivism, where the students come back and then we have to begin that 12-step process again. So When we look at this whole process here, I have it all written out here. You can pause and take a look at it if you would like. These are the first four steps. On the very right, in the yellow boxes, you'll see something that hasn't been written. So on each slide, you'll see the title, the success criteria and objectives. For example, you've seen the teacher introductions along with their success criteria and objectives. I was reading everything in that red box or pentagon there actually. Uh, where they have the three steps there. But specifically to our location, there's some little notes that talk about what's going on specifically. For example, in person or online. Is this happening in person or online? So, teacher introductions, we do have an online system where those are pre recorded, but we also do it in person. Again, for step four, for example, on the very right, it says administrative. School secretary will acquire any information on students to review with school staff. So, just specific notes that go along with each step. You're welcome to pause and take a little closer look at steps 5 through 8. You'll see the same thing here. And then lastly, steps 9 through 12. When looked at this in a different way, it's a little more different. This is a different outlook. It's more for the credit recovery process, but within it are the 12 steps. You'll see the overall success criteria for this particular chart is the success criterion is to facilitate a comprehensive and individualized educational experience for juveniles and the local juvenile detention center that supports their academic growth, addresses their unique needs, and prepares them for overall success. Excuse me, for a successful transition back to a regular school upon release. You are welcome to pause this as well and take a look at it. But basically, when you start on the left side, student arrives at the juvenile detention center. First thing that happens is the school secretary creates the student profiles, unless it's already in the school district system. This is done on our Infinite Campus system. And that Infinite Campus system will distribute all the information that we need. It's where everything pretty much goes that identifies that student. So the secretary, if you look at that orange box that is just slightly at a 45-degree angle, secretary determines if a student is within the JDC school district or not. If you go to the right, the student's previous school district is contacted for records requests. She'll use the Office 365 email system, and then all of that eventually goes back down below the orange box where it says student records are updated. If you go down, transcripts are made viewable to JDC common teachers for review. Designated credit recovery classroom teacher adds students to Edgenuity courses. So we do use Edgenuity for our software. Credit recovery teacher reviews a student transcript and adds a student to a course they need to take on Edgenuity. Student takes Edgenuity courses, and then you go up. A student completes course or is released to homeschool. New course is added to Edgenuity for student completion. And then eventually, homeschool is contacted and student academic information is updated. Now, this is not specifically aligned for the 12 steps, but if you look at this whole student recovery process, you'll see how it lines up with the whole 12-step program in a different format. So today, what we looked at was how to facilitate a comprehensive, individualized educational experience for juveniles in the local juvenile detention center that supports their academic growth, addresses their unique needs, and prepares them for a successful transition back into regular school upon release. Through the 12 steps that you have seen, this is how our program possibly will attempt to deal with this. And if successful, we hope that other people may use it as well. If not, we will address the issues and improve upon it. I want to thank you for your time and taking about 20 minutes just to listen to me and my ideas. My name is Jeffrey Hart. If you have any questions, you are welcome to email me. I do have a LinkedIn profile on this particular setting. You don't see that, but I'll link it into my YouTube account if you need. Otherwise, thank you and you have a great day.